Limbus Company recently added in a new Reflectile boss, that being Lei Hang. We've all been expecting Project Moon to be adding him eventually, but now that he's here, I want to go over not only a guide to beat him, but also why I like this fight so much and the Reflectile game mode as a whole. Reflectile as a game mode overall is a very positive thing for this game's future, offering multiple challenges for late game players, along with limited time bosses that grant exclusive rewards for those who clear it in time. But before I get into the best parts of this fight, I want to talk about the normal mode and how it fixes the problems he had in the original fight. First, you're no longer given more Asitas. Instead, you gain offense level up and have some of your stagger thresholds removed. This makes clashing possible on turn 1 with allowing the player to still lose stagger thresholds from their centers. Centers also start with 30 SP, or negative 30 for minus coin IVs, and you also gain 3 ego resources for all affinities. Next, all of Lei Hang's resistances were set to 0.9. While an overall minor change to his fight, it does give him a little bit of protection from a certain someone. Reducing the total amount of damage he takes by a bit lets him drag the fight on much longer, unlike the original fight where people have beaten him in just 2 turns. Third, the Reflectile passives. Lei Hang has desperately needed something to counter getting destroyed by Sanguine Desire or Haisha teams. The Reflectile passives gives him just that, capping all negative keyword statuses to 30 potency and 10 count, along with him gaining or losing flash power in long flashes to prevent him from getting cheesed with lead teams. Now, let's get into the buffs you get during this fight, starting with the Phase 1 changes. Remove 1 stagger bar from all IDs present on the field. All allies also gain 8 offense and defense up. On A-Res, you gain 1 ego resources for the affinity, and 1 ego resource for the least owned affinity. Egos do 50% more damage. Gluttony or Rupture skills do 25% more damage, and egos get plus 100%. When an ID clashes with Lei Hang, they gain 1 clash power for every 2 bind he has, capping it to clash power. Now, my recommended team for normal mode, despite the buffs you get in Phase 1, I'd personally recommend running a full middle team with backups being NV defensive units. Your strat for this is just to unpack Otis as quickly as possible. You also need to keep your centers alive as long as you can, just so that you can get enough damage done to reach Phase 2, or end the fight with just this team, which was what I did. Normal mode isn't really that much more difficult than the original fight, so you should be able to clear it pretty quickly, assuming your team is strong enough. Now, before I get into hard mode, which is where this fight gets difficult, I'm going to cover the Phase 2 effects along with the tribulation effects Lei Hang gets in hard mode. Starting with the Phase 2 effects, which happens after this sick-ass cutscene. Now, the Phase 2 effects specifically favor burn teams, where all allies will have their initial 8 offense and defense level up replaced with a 15 offense and defense level up, and now Wrath skills, or skills that inflict burn, do 25% more damage, with Ego still doing plus 100%. I only switched teams once I was doing hard mode, so before I share the teams I ran, I'm going to quickly cover the tribulation effects that Lei Hang gets. Lei Hang's max HP is increased by an insane plus 80%, putting him at 7,360 max HP, and his SP can no longer drop below 0. Prey Mark in this fight also makes you take a lot more damage if you ignore it. Also, blasting Shatter Slash now hits you like a truck if he has 3 or more Tiger Mark rounds. And if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear the Phase 2 effects. You cannot ignore Prey Mark, not that you were, hopefully, because whoever has Prey Mark will die if you ignore it, because Lei Hang gains 5 base power and deals plus 200% damage to the Prey Mark center unless you have a defense skill, and it makes all of his coins unbreakable. If you somehow manage to win a clash, he also gains Severing Slash, which makes slash resistances pointless. All of this combined makes her one of the most difficult yet fun fights we've had since 8-30 originally released. For Phase 1 of this fight, I actually used the same team I used in normal mode, as the middle can output a ton of damage quickly while keeping their HP up. However, I also brought some other egos to help with healing and damage output. Those being Scissors, Dawn, and Otis, along with Move and Reg, Heathcliff, and Unbrilliant Glory, Gregor. Avoid letting Otis take too many hits, as she needs to fully unpack quickly to output her insane damage. The strategy overall is about the same, with a few small changes to account for the tribulation effects. Try to let the Prey Mark center defend and tank, blasting Shatter Slash if possible, but you need him to be under 3 Tiger Mark rounds, so if the Prey center is too fast, let someone else tank it later in the turn. Once you make it to Phase 2, give up and move on to the next team. Now, for Phase 2, you need a team that can clash super high and output a ton of damage. My pick for that was Trimmer Scorch, but using Thumbclare instead of Dawnclare. The reason I picked Thumbclare over Dawnclare is because Dawnclare's clashing is super inconsistent because of his SP loss. Dawnclare also does not trigger Trimmer Burst, unlike Thumbclare. Also, bring Zwei Ishmael so she can tank abilities and do free Trimmer Bursts from her guard and base ego. The most important units here are Zwei Ishmael and Thumb Rodion, as they can both just tank or evade blasting Shatter Slash, along with Rhodia having Disposal, which can do a lot of damage as long as you keep your Trimmer and Burn up. The strategy behind the Trimmer Scorch team is pretty straightforward throughout the fight. You're first going to want to get your Burn and Trimmer up to 30 as quick as possible, and use Zwei Ishmael's guard every single turn to keep defensive stance up, along with gaining aggro to tank hits. Your main damage dealers are the Dondo and Rhodia, with Crack of Dawn and Dismemberment at High Noon doing a lot of damage along with Tremor Bursts, and Disposal doing ridiculous damage with more Tremor Bursts. But just because I gave you the teams and strategies to beat this fight, don't think that it'll be easy. This is definitely the hardest fight we've gotten since probably Rufo's Reflect Trial, so make sure to read and plan your turns out. The rest of this video will just be funny clips that happened to me during my runs.
하고 나온 게 이 짝도 달아오르는구만.
어디 시험을 보자.
호랑이를 잡으려고 했으면 누구도 잡아내킬 각오를 했어야지.
기도.
가져갈 수 없을 거다.